Okay, I have a question. When did getting your boobs done become so normal? Like, I swear, I hear people talk about it so casually now. You go online, you will hear people say, yeah, I'm gonna go get my boobs done after I have kids, or I wish I had more cleavage, or my clothes would look so much better if I actually had boobs. On TikTok and Instagram right now, you can literally watch the whole process, like the consultation, the picking the implant site. Actually, like last week, I saw a couple of live stream on TikTok showing different sizes of implants for viewers to choose from, and I was like, wait a minute. And then we have the surgery day, the recovery vlog, and then the final reveal. And I'm not judging anyone who gets breast implants, okay? If you want them and you're happy with your decision, then that's okay, that's your body. But seeing how normal this has become made me wonder, why does it feel like everyone wants bigger boobs now? And actually, even more specifically, when did having small boobs become something that needed fixing? At first, I thought the answer was obvious and simple, like men like big boobs, or big boobs always give off some kind of like sexual vibe. End of the video, I don't know, okay? But the more I thought about it, the less that explanation actually made sense. Because if bigger breasts were simply this universal, timeless definition of attractiveness, then why have women spent different periods of history trying to make their breasts look smaller? Beauty standards are weird because whatever is fashionable right now starts to feel like it has always been fashionable, but it hasn't. Just look at women fashion in 1920s. One of the dominant looks was this straight, almost boyish silhouette. The fashionable flapper shape emphasized curves, and clothing was specifically designed to create a flatter, more tubular body. If Instagram existed in 1925, some women might have been trying to make their boobs look smaller. Then fashion changes. By the late 1940s and 1950s, like you see tiny waists, more exaggerated curves, structure bars, Hollywood's bombshells. Christian Dior post-war neo look famously emphasized a nipped waist and fuller silhouette. Then you move through the next few decades and the idea keeps shifting again. At some point, we are upset with being extremely thin, then we want thin but with big boobs, then we want the exaggerated hourglass, tiny waist, big boobs, and big butt. And now we are moving towards this slightly different aesthetic where everything is supposed to look subtle and natural. Actually, even plastic surgeons are talking about patients increasingly choosing smaller volume augmentation and more proportionate, natural looking result instead of simply going as large as possible. So already, I think the question gets more complicated because maybe women don't naturally or biologically or universally wants a huge boob. Maybe breasts are just like every other part of women's body. They are going in and out of fashion. But there is one massive difference between a beauty standard from 100 years ago and beauty standard today is that today you can buy the body that is fashionable. This is the part I find pretty interesting because imagine being a woman 100 years ago and you are insecure about having small breasts. What are your options? You can wear certain clothes, you can wear padding, you can use lingerie to create a different shape, but at the end of the day, you will have to accept that, okay, these are my boobs and this is what I've got. But today, the relationship with your body is completely different. Modern silicone breast implant arrived in the early 1960s. The first silicone gel breast implants was used in 1962, which basically marks the beginning of modern breast augmentation. And the history after that wasn't smooth. There were major safety concerns, lawsuits, and regulatory controversy. In 1992, the FDA restricted access to silicone gel implants because there wasn't enough safety data at the time. silicone gel implants returned to the broader US cosmetic market after FDA approval in 2006. And even now, breast implants are not considered lifetime devices. The FDA explicitly warned that people with implants should expect the possibility of additional surgery and complication over time. So this is still surgery. It's not the same thing as getting your hair done, but culturally something has changed because once a procedure exists that can change the thing you're insecure about, your relationship with that insecurity becomes completely different. Before, you may thought, oh yeah, I have small boobs. Now there's another thought available. I don't have to have small boobs, you know? And I think those are psychologically very different statements because when changing something becomes possible, not changing it start to feel like a decision too. You know what I mean? Like just think about it. If you hate your nose, there's a surgery. If you hate your lips, there's filler. If you hate your stomach, there's procedure. If you don't like your butt, there are BBL enhancement. And if you don't like your boobs, well, there's literally an entire industry offering you different size, shape, and profiles. So now you are not comparing yourself to another woman. You are comparing yourself to this imaginary updated version of yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest differences in modern beauty culture. We didn't just create more beauty standards. We kind of like turned the body into a project. And this is the part where I started questioning my original question. Because when a woman say, I wish my boobs were bigger, does she literally mean like, I want enormous breasts? Maybe not. Maybe what she actually means is, I want cleavage. I want more fullness at the top. I want my breasts to look rounder. I want them to sit higher. I want them to look symmetrical. I want my body to look more balanced. And suddenly, I want bigger boobs become shorthand for something much more complicated. Because the modern idea isn't necessarily just size. Its shape, its position, its proportion, its symmetry, its fullness. And the more I think about it, the more it makes me go like, wait, maybe the question isn't why does everyone want big boobs? But maybe the question is, why do we have such a specific idea of what good boobs are supposed to look like? Because there are women with large breasts who are insecure about them. Some women get breast reduction. Some women want lifts. Some women want smaller implants. Breast lifts have actually increased significantly in recent years as pension shape and position changes rather than just added volume. So clearly, bigger does not automatically equal better, which means the standard isn't bigger, but the standard is closer to perfectly proportioned, and that is a much harder standard to escape. There's also another reason I think breasts are particularly complicated because they are not treated like elbow or knees or ears. Breasts kind of carry all of these meaning like sexuality, womanhood, motherhood, femininity, attractiveness. And because breasts are one of the visible physical differences associated with female puberty, they are deeply tied to how femininity gets represented, which means disaffection with your breast can become about much more than I don't like this part of my body. You hear women with smaller breasts say things like, I don't feel feminine enough, I don't feel sexy enough, I feel like little girl. And most of us know that sounds ridiculous. Obviously, the size of your breast doesn't determine whether you're a woman. Obviously, you can have a completely flat chest and still be feminine, but knowing something intellectually doesn't erase what you have absorbed emotionally. I think that is where beauty standards become really powerful. You can believe breast size doesn't define femininity, but at the same time, you can still think, I would feel more feminine if my boobs were bigger. And that's fascinating to me because we are not really talking about anatomy anymore. We are talking about identity. Now, we have to talk about the obvious explanation. men. Because whenever women change something about their appearance, eventually someone will say, well, women only do that because men like it. And I'm not saying attraction doesn't matter. And I'm not going to pretend that heterosexual beauty standards develop completely separately from male attraction. But I also don't think men's like bigger boobs is enough to explain everything happening here. Research on men's breast size preferences isn't as simple as men prefer bigger. Preferences vary between individuals and have been shown to vary depending on social and economic context. So clearly, there isn't one universal male answer. And actually, if you ask yourself, if every straight man disappeared tomorrow, would women immediately stop caring about their boobs? I don't think so. Because women aren't only looking at themselves through the men's eyes, we are looking at other women. We are looking at clothes. We are looking at celebrities. We are looking at ourselves in pictures. We are deciding whether we look womanly enough. We are comparing ourselves to whatever image of femininity we have built inside our own heads. And sometimes the person whose approval you are chasing doesn't actually exist. Is this imaginary audience, other women, men, yourself, people online. It feels like everyone and nobody at the same time. And eventually nobody has to directly tell you that, oh, you know what, your boobs should look like this. You have already learned the rule. Now, social media, and I have talked about this a lot before, so I'm not going to spend half the video explaining again how Instagram and TikTok affect beauty standard, okay? We know constant exposure and appearance focus. Social media can increase body dissatisfaction and interest in cosmetics procedures. So yes, seeing the same body again and again matters, but there's one thing about social media that I think is particularly relevant to boobs jobs. Social media didn't just show us the result, it shows us the process. You will see, come with me to my consultation vlog, or help me pick my implant size, or here's what surgery day look like, 3-day post op, 2 weeks post op, boob job Q&A. And especially when Kylie Jenner revealed to the whole world her implant size, yeah, that changes something. Because surgery stops feeling mysterious, it becomes content. And when you have watched 100 people go through something that once felt extreme can start feeling completely ordinary. That is really all I want to say about social media here, because I think the bigger change is what happened after cosmetic surgery became normal enough to be treated like a consumer product. Listen to the language we use. We say, she got her boobs done. It sounds almost casual. We don't say she underwent elective surgery and had medical devices implanted into her chest, which is technically what happened, but nobody say that because it sounds freaking weird. And again, I'm not saying that to scare people or shame anyone who has implant. I'm just pointing out how much the language changes the way something feels. Getting my boobs done sounds like maintaining, like getting my hair done, getting my nails done, getting my teeth done. But medically, breast augmentation is obviously a much bigger decision. The FDA still emphasizes complication, possible reparation, and the fact that implants are not lifetime devices. Yet, we increasingly talk about aesthetic procedure through the language of upgrading ourselves. And that's the part that makes me uncomfortable. Not because changing your body is bad, but because if every insecurity has a purchasable solution, there's a lot of money to be made for making sure you're never completely satisfied. Think about the business model. You don't like something. Someone identified the problem. Someone showed you the transformation. Someone offers a solution. And eventually the question becomes, if I can fix it, why wouldn't I? And here is the funniest part. As I mentioned before, big boobs are not necessarily the current idea. The trends seem to be moving towards something much more subtle and natural. The American Society of Plastic Surgeons has highlighted growing interest in smaller volume augmentation, focused on proportion and natural looking result. So the idea is not the biggest boob possible anymore, but it's more like be slim, have a small waist, but still have enough breast volume. Your boobs should be round, but not obviously fake, full but proportional, lifted but natural, symmetrical, youthful, and ideally, nobody should be able to tell that you had anything done, which might actually be an even more impossible beauty standard. Because at least have big boobs is straightforward. Now it's having perfect boobs but make it look like you were naturally born with them. And that, I think, is the actual modern beauty standard. Not bigger, but better, and whatever better happens to mean this year. So I started this video asking why does it feel like everyone wants bigger boobs now? And I don't think that's actually the right question anymore. I don't think that women suddenly woke up one generation and decided, oh, you know what, I want bigger boobs. I think a bunch of things happened at the same time. The beauty idea changed, breasts become strongly connected with certain idea of femininity, which we all know that's fucking ridiculous. Cosmetic surgery made changing them possible. The procedure became more normalized. And yes, social media accelerated the whole thing. But the biggest change might be simpler than all of that. There was once a point where you didn't like your body, sometimes you just had to live with it. Today, almost every insecurity has a product attached to it. A procedure, a treatment, an injection, a surgery, a payment plan, a before and after. And once there is a solution for something, it's very easy to start seeing the thing itself as a problem. And maybe that's what happened with boobs. Maybe women don't actually want bigger breasts more than women ever did before. Maybe we have simply become more convinced that whatever we naturally have could be improved. And I don't know, I find it a little unsettling. And I'm curious what you think. Do you think women generally want bigger boobs more today? Or do you think that we have just become more convinced that our natural bodies are supposed to be customizable? Let me know because I want to hear what other women think about this one. And that's it the video. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.